Unfortunately, you will not be hearing just from me today. I'm going to moderate the next session. So I'm going to kick it off by inviting my two other panelists. The first gentleman is president at GoCardless. He has one of the most prestigious resumes in the finance world that you could have, with experience from RBS, VocalLink, MasterCard, and GoCardless. He is described by his team as dedicated, thoughtful, ambitious, compassionate, and they say that there aren't many Pauls in this world, and we are fortunate to have him. Please welcome on stage the president of GoCardless, Paul Stoddart. Would we be able to get some chairs, perhaps? Thank you. Second is someone that you may or might not know. He has 10 years experience as a founder, the past 7 years as one of the founders of Nordigen. He's orchestrated one of the biggest fintech acquisitions in Latvian history. Give it up for everyone's hometown hero, Rolands Mesters. Great. Please. It's great to be on stage with the two of you today. It's such a pleasure. The title is Behind the Scenes of an Acquisition. So I figured we would go ahead and rip off that Band-Aid and give the audience what they were looking for. And I was hoping that you, Rolands, could kick things off. We've spoken a little bit, and I've understood that you were in the early stages of fundraising just over a year ago for your next round. And basically, as a coincidence, you met someone who knew someone who was on the board of GoCardless, and kind of one thing led to another. But maybe you can take us back to that time and give us a little bit of insight behind the scenes. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know, I'm one of the founders of Nordigen. Nordigen is a fintech based here in Latvia. We've been building Nordigen since 2016, so quite a long time. Last year we were about to raise our, I think it was like a seed round. It's hard to tell, like this seed, late seed, early Series A. It was about to be our, I think, the 6th round in the history of the company. We kick off the year like we typically do, sort of go out, talk with investors. And we happened to chat with Tom Holm from Google Ventures. And actually that connection with Tom Holm happened because Andres, who was just previously on stage, gave an introduction to Tom Holm. And we actually got to know Andres because we participated in TechChill a while back. So it's like all linked.
Bringing it back home.
Bringing it back home. And we chatted with Tom Holm. I gave him my best pitch about, how we're going to change the world with open banking technologies. And he was like, do you know what, I think you should talk with someone. And he introduced us to the chief product officer of GoCardless, Duncan. I gave my best pitch to Duncan. And Duncan was like, do you know what, you guys you've built the bits that we don't have. We're also building an open banking technology. You have built half of open banking, which is related to data. And we have the other half, which is related to payments. And then half-jokingly, he said, well, maybe we should just buy you. And I was half-jokingly like, well, maybe you should. And that was beginning of last year. And a few months later, the conversation kind of started to pick up. And then a few months later, we signed a term sheet. And then a few months later, we were acquired. So that was that.
Oh, but was it an immediate yes or no, or did you really have to go back and think about it?
Yeah. So, we were in the midst of a fundraising process. So our original plan was to just continue building. We had this vision for open banking. We wanted to build the best open banking platform in the world on the back of this infrastructure that we have in Europe. And so that was the original goal. And when we set out on the journey of fundraising, we were looking for investors, my discussion with Duncan was very much, I was looking, maybe there's a strategic element to it, maybe not, maybe that's an investor, maybe not, So we got a term sheet from a very prominent Silicon Valley investor, and that was basically that kicked off the whole conversation. And so, when we made the decision, it was like a hard yes, and we never backed out from that decision. I still think that's the best possible outcome that we could have had. Of course, it took a while to kind of digest it all. So it wasn't an immediate yes or no. We rationally evaluated all what's ahead potentially, and then but once we made a decision, it was fully all in.
Did you have any secret requirements, internally, like, yes, if I can afford that house in Hawaii? Calculations in your head?
No, I think we're more pragmatic. If we were looking at this, so we had two options. One option is to continue building and have a great investor and make Nordigen like the largest company we could independently, or to join someone and be helping them go faster. And so we kind of looked at more pragmatically, what's the best for our investors, what's the best for our team, what's the best for the product, and like eventually what's also the best for the partner. Yeah. So I was never about buying a house or nothing. Although I considered like what would give me the best chance to have a few days off after the whole thing ends, and so I did consider like what's the vacation situation, like can I take a few days off after all this?
How did you balance the vision of the acquisition with the vision that you could sort of articulate in your head with the realities of what it would mean for your team?
So this is where I think we got incredibly lucky, is Nordigen has joined GoCardless. First of all, GoCardless is also a startup. It's a much bigger startup, but it's still a startup, so it means it's growing fast. Secondly, we've joined a company that also cares a lot about technology that we've been building. So I wouldn't say it was a hard sell to the team. But it was still a sell. So we had to tell the team that, hey, remember how we were kind of like it's us against the world? So it's no longer us against the world. And so we did. It was one of the hardest things to do, really, to get everyone on board. And so we started gradually by making sure that our leadership inside of our team was excited about this, and then gradually expanded that to the rest of the team. But I feel so happy it was like a very good coincidence that GoCardless shares a lot about the same values that we share. So it was a pretty good fit.
That's a great segue to my next question. Paul, I'd like to get you involved in this as well. You have extensive experience from the payments industry, and I can imagine that you probably have your choice of employers where you could go. What was it about GoCardless that enticed you?
I think I look really at people and vision, and when I met Hiroki, I thought he has a vision that has started down a different path, but is going to end up in the same place as my vision. Mm-hmm. So the vision thing was very important, and I think open banking and sort of bank payments, by the way, together is the only thing that is going to transform payments over the next 10 years. And I think people, in the end, I'm lucky now I can choose who I want to work with. And so I'd rather work with people who, I get on with. And
the two of you get on. Okay.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think, Rolands and Roberts, as two individuals, the shared culture thing is really important. Yeah. I've done loads of acquisitions, and the ones that haven't worked have been because of culture and nothing else. So to make a successful transaction, post-transaction, the culture's got to be right. And it was great to meet them both and find that there was another vehicle on the same journey as we were.
And when you came into GoCardless, what were the big strategic milestones that the company wanted to accomplish, and how does Nordigen fit into that vision?
As Robert said, they're a startup, 11 years basically, so maybe that's more scale up now than startup. But Having built, what I call single product, single market success, it was time to go multi-product and multi-market. And from a multi-product perspective, it was important to add open banking in its broadest sense capability into the business. And at the same time, it was about where are we going to focus from a geographic perspective. And so those were the two big strategic questions, product and market. Obviously, funding for GoCardless was also important to secure that and provide a trajectory that would allow the business to execute in the way it wanted. So they were the big strategic questions, and we found Nordigen, and they helped deliver a big part of that.
Maybe we could continue on the topic of open banking. Open banking or open finance has been a hot topic for a while now. Some say that it hasn't lived up to expectations, and others say that the future is still in front of us. Why do you believe that now is the time for open banking?
Yeah, first of all, I think every technology needs time. And so we have this technology lifecycle adoption curve, and every technology, once it starts off with the early adopters, and it takes a while for it to get into the early majority. And we're seeing the first signs of this open banking technology picking up in the early majority. I think it was just a few weeks ago when UK open banking implementation entity posted the latest reports. We have something like 10-11% of digitally active UK citizens using open banking, which is fascinating. 10%, it's a pretty big chunk. UK is a tiny bit ahead of everyone else, so Europe is catching up. But it's clear that this technology adds value. It's clear that Europe is better off with having an open ecosystem in the banking field instead of a closed one. So I'm incredibly excited about the things our partners are building on top of open banking. So I think that's as long as there's people that are ambitious and want to solve world problems, there will be need for open banking, because open banking is unlocking access to payments rails, to data rails that we just did not have before.
So I'm going to go back and forth a little bit from the acquisition to open banking, just to keep everyone on their toes, to keep the two of you on your toes. So if we go back to the acquisition, what did you do the minute that it was signed? Did you celebrate? You mentioned earlier you took a few days off, maybe.
Yeah, so we, I think it was June 30th, when we were just, it was our team and GoCardless team literally chatting on multiple channels. We had emails and messages, and there was everything. And it was, we had set a deadline that we should sign by 1st of July. And we actually worked all through the night on the 30th. I did not sleep an hour. I didn't sleep at all. I think Duncan, the chief product officer at GoCardless, he might have slept an hour and a half. So actually, he was much better at planning time management than I was. But yeah, and we signed it in the middle of the night, or very early in the morning. No one had slept. We had to, we had scheduled an announcement to the team. So we had to sign it before. That was a clear deadline. And then we broke the news to the team. All I could feel that I was freaking exhausted. And
was there anything that surprised you about that day?
Everything. It was just it was a weird sort of mystical
but I just feel all of this preparation, all of these months, you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
The day was still surprising.
There was a moment in time when I was breaking the news to the team, and we did it through a Zoom call, and there was a bunch of people in the office, but we still wanted to reach everyone. And I got a message from, it was our CTO, Jake, who said, "Rolands, you don't look excited, be more excited." And that was, he sent me that message as I was speaking to the team. And that's because I've been reading legal text for the last few weeks, so most of what I said was legally accurate. So that kind of was challenging, but yeah, like that was it was just great feeling. I think and I had like such big pride in what our team had been able to achieve. It wasn't just us, the founders or the investors. It wasn't just the leadership team. It was literally everyone in the team who helped us, from like people who were doing their best to make sure our customers are happy, to people who are hiring, and we had hired amazing talent in the team. So there was like lots of pride in what we've been able to achieve. So.
And what was the team's reaction?
It's hard to say. I don't recall too much from that day. I think they were.
We're sleeping.
They were quite excited. I think there were some people in most of the leadership team knew before the big announcement. But like as soon as we announced it, I think a lot of people actually had a question. Okay, so what do you expect next? And so that was, it was like, okay, we did it. Milestone achieved. What's next? And so
did you have that prepared? The what's next?
We did have that prepared, yeah. And what's next was that we decided to take, I think, most of the team to London, like literally last minute, to join. GoCardless has this amazing event where GoCardless brings in everyone from all over the world to an event we call GC Live. And we got the whole team in, and we announced it to the team. It was big. The announcement was huge, but it wasn't just real yet, right? So, there was ink on the paper, but nothing had changed. But then once we brought 40 people to London to the event, and we actually saw GoCardless in its entirety, that was mind-blowing. So goosebumps all over. So that was, cool. I think that was then when everyone realized, myself included, like this is happening.
Paul, you now run a very well-oiled machine here in Riga. And from the conversations that we've had in preparation for today, you've expressed your excitement and vision for GoCardless's operations here. What is it about Riga and Latvia that you like so much?
Yeah.
And can you give us some insights into GoCardless's secret plans here?
Sure. I mean, I think the transaction for us was also a vehicle for more efficient expansion, if I can describe it like that. We'd been looking for a while for a location outside of London, so we have kind of 700, 800 people in one of the most expensive cities in the world, all in one business, in one place. And so we'd been looking for a location in the market or region that we operate in. And so what initially was an added benefit, if you like, was when we met the Nordigen team and we spent time here in Riga, we realized that this actually could be the location we'd been looking for. And so very quickly, as part of the integration work, we turned that into reality as well. So the transaction is actually the first part of a major investment into Riga, and we're very excited about how we intend to bring a number of other functions from our business to Riga. And we've been impressed with the talent, we've been impressed with the sort of speed of execution generally. Obviously, there are cost benefits relative to the UK and London. And so it kind of ticks a lot of the boxes. The talent that we can source here, we weren't sure because of the size of the market, but we haven't really found it to be any more difficult than anywhere else. So I'm actually really excited about what turned out, what was originally a very tactical technology product acquisition, is turning out to be a much bigger play for us here in Riga, but for the whole of Europe. So lots of upside and really pleased.
Great. I can imagine that this room is filled with founders and entrepreneurs who are on or hope to be on a journey similar to yours. Do you have any advice for expectant founders that find themselves in a similar situation so that they can prepare themselves?
Yeah, I think there's two things that when thinking back to the process that I've learned. So if you're building a company, make sure the company is acquirable and not unacquirable, meaning that startups are fast-moving vehicles. There's lots of things in those vehicles in the trunk that are kind of like not tidy. So what was very good was that we were prepared for a fundraising process. Meant that we had all the folders with all the documents in the right place, and it made the whole process much smoother. So that meant we can if we wanted to show something to a potential investor or acquirer, then we were able to do that very, very quickly, and so that helps a lot. So these types of discussions should not be blocked by the fact that you cannot find the right documents. So that was like first thing that I just definitely advise any early stage founder. Like late stage founders definitely know this already. Early stage founders, keep your documents tidied up in the right places. But the second thing is, what was also fascinating to me was that the process of an acquisition is very similar to a investment process. It follows the same stages. It has all the same risks at the same stages as you can think of a traditional investment process. What also works is that, like any investment process, it's very important to just get multiple term sheets, like to be able to compare options and make a really like a calculated decision. So that helped us also quite a lot, and so it helped us to. The fact that we were in the midst of a fundraising process helped us to evaluate the opportunity to join GoCardless much more diligently and make a very rational decision on this. So that's that's my learning from the process.
I'd like to get your opinion on the same question, but you come at it from a different angle as a potential acquirer.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
Yeah. I think it comes back to the individuals, the people, basically. I'm looking at are these folks genuine? Are they sincere? Are they really committed to what they're doing? Are they passionate about what they're doing? I mean, we're investing in people as well. It's probably at least in the top three things. I mean, the point around documentation is one of my little bugbears, is that it's probably the single biggest thing that makes an opportunity unravel very quickly. I know it's the last thing on an engineer or a founder's mind when they're building a business, but I can tell you that you'll soon regret it if you don't take time to actually document what you're doing, why you made the decisions you made. It doesn't matter if they were wrong, but just why did you make them at the time? What was the basis for them? An architecture, a roadmap, these things become very important when someone's looking at you for whatever reason, whether it's an investment acquisition. And so that's definitely a little bugbear of mine, and I still say that about GoCardless.
Yeah.
I still think that parts of the business have poor quality documentation and don't have clear decision-making rationale and so on. So
for all the founders in the room, key takeaway, documentation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably the most boring thing possible, but I can tell you you'll thank it when you get to the stage that you need to rely on it. And then I think that the third thing is just kind of understanding. Nobody expects you to understand what life is going to be like afterwards, but it's just a willingness to roll your sleeves up and be part of the bigger thing, whatever the bigger thing is. I've bought 25 businesses in my career of all different shapes and sizes. The worst thing that can happen is, day two, and the acquirer and the founder of the business are at loggerheads on everything. It happens a lot, but it is the worst thing that can happen for both parties, because value very quickly gets destroyed. And so you have to get people rallied around the new vision, the new goal, the new mission of the combined business. And the sooner you can get over that change. I mean, everything. It's a change curve that you go through, and as soon as you can get through that, the high very quickly becomes, oh my God, this is very different. I don't know what this is about. And maybe an exit is for the individuals is the right thing, but in most cases, those that rally around the new goal and the vision tend to do much better in the long term. The integration goes well. Our integration has gone faster, been more successful than most that I've done, and I'm delighted with that. It means you come out the other side much more quickly, and everyone can get back to kind of why they wanted to do the deal in the first place. So that would be the third thing.
So you mentioned that you've run organizations that have bought 25 different businesses, but you've also been on the receiving end as well.
I have.
You were at VocalLink that got bought by MasterCard. So you've been through a similar transition that Rolands has been going through now.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, do you have any advice for him? We're having your one-on-one here in front of everybody on the stage.
I mean, we've worked pretty closely from day one. I joined GoCardless kind of probably not midway through the transaction, but after the transaction had kind of got on its tracks. And it is really that proximity that's important. Communication is important. So I sold VocalLink to MasterCard in 2016. It then took a year for us to get competition and markets approval. So we actually only closed the transaction a year after we signed it. I don't know how you'd feel if that had happened, whether there'd still been a transaction. I mean, it would have been a question. But that communication is really important from day one, because you need to know where you are, and you need to know where the acquiring entity or the other key individual stakeholders are throughout that. And so communication. I mean, it doesn't help to lock yourself in a room. I'm being extreme, but that doesn't help. Communication at different levels in different environments is really important to get over the bumps, to make the successes better and bigger and higher. It's probably an often ignored skill, but it's actually a very, very important one.
Okay. We have a few minutes left, and I like to end all of my interviews with something called rapid fire. We'll ask you each a couple of questions. You can only answer yes or no quickly. You can't think about it. And you're not prepared for this at all, so start sweating. I'll start with you. It'll be an easy one. Let's pretend a year ago that someone else called and offered to acquire Nordigen, and the then CEO was Donald Trump. Would you have said yes or no?
No.
Okay, that was easy. They get harder from here. Paul, is Rolands a coachable employee or not?
Yes.
Great. Rolands, is Paul the best boss you've ever had?
Yes.
See?
Yes.
It gets harder. Paul, since the acquisition of Nordigen, fintech valuations have plummeted.
Yeah.
With this in hindsight, did you pay too much?
No.
Rolands, will open banking payments have surpassed card payments by the year 2030?
Yes.
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 Are you an Arsenal fan?
No, I'm a West Ham fan.
Are you not supposed to answer?
I can't leave Arsenal out there, that's the problem.
Is Nordigen your last startup?
No.
My next... I can't ask you anymore because you...
What?
I was going to ask you if you're a Chelsea fan.
No,
But,
okay.
No.
No, sorry.
Okay, last question. Does your wife think that you're easier to live with now that you have a real job?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Enjoy the rest of your day.